Every year around Thanksgiving, supermarkets will offer free turkeys if you spend X amount of dollars. So I go in, I stock up on the items that I need, like my sugar, my flour, my basics, things I'm gonna be buying anyway throughout the year. And I make sure that I have about a year's supply of those items. And then I'm able to get somewhere around 6 turkeys for free out of it, which is great, but I don't want to store them in my freezer for that long. So I'm going to show you what I do with them over the winter months to get them out of my freezer. The first step is, of course, to get them out of their wrapping. Now, I very rarely think about defrosting ahead of time. And it takes up space, and you have to worry about doing it properly so that you don't have bacterial growth. So generally speaking, I just pull it straight out of the freezer. It's still frozen, and I defrost it in my roasting pan. I just use my kitchen shears to release it from its wrapping. Now at this point, it will be too frozen to get the giblets out, but that's okay. I don't even worry about them yet. So then I'll place it in my roasting pan and I'll put it on my defrost mode. Defrost is just 275 degrees. So if yours doesn't have a specific spot that says defrost, just put it on 275, put the lid on it, and let it sit for a couple hours. It's been 3 hours now and the turkey is nice and defrosted. So now it's time for me to pull that giblets bag out. I place the giblets down at the base because they'll add to the broth really well. Then I'll place the lid back on. I'll turn it up just a little bit to 300 and I'll let it continue to cook. Now the best way for me to tell if the turkey is done is to actually do a temperature reading. It's got the little button and that has gone up, so that's a good sign. But I want to get into that internal temperature and make sure that it's at least 165 degrees. The next step is to separate out what me and my family are going to eat for dinner, because it doesn't make sense to cook and then have to cook again at dinner time. So this is just going to be both what I'm canning and what we're doing for dinner. Usually my family is most fond of the dark meat. So this is all prepared for our dinner in just a little bit. My next step is to get all of the meat off the bone so that I can cut that up, and I'll leave the bones, the skin, all of the giblets in the roasting pan, and that's what I'll make my broth out of. It's just amazing how large the breast meat is on these. Most of my family tends to prefer the dark meat, which is why I saved the leg for dinner. But once it's canned, that white meat is actually so much more tender and moist, and so it doesn't have that dry component to it that I think is what they don't care for. Funny thing is, I actually like white meat more. So then I just pour in my water, and you really want it to be more than you think that you're going to need because of the fact that so much of it will evaporate off. In fact, I might do another half gallon. Let's see. I think I'm going to do another gallon. So I'll do 3 gallons over the top of this just because I don't want any section poking out. It is floating a little bit, but it will evaporate so much. This is just a really basic turkey broth, but there are times that I'll throw bits and pieces of vegetables in there. You can even just throw the ends of your onions and your celery and your carrots in there, and it does add some flavor to it. But for this one, I'm just doing it basic. You can also do herbs. And then I put the lid on and I'll plug it in and I'll set it to 300 degrees for 24 hours. I do come back and check the level of the water periodically, and sometimes it needs more added to it. I don't necessarily want it as high as it currently is, but I do want it to cover all of the bones. Now I need to dice this into 1-inch squares, and I'll put it directly into my jars. I love working with the turkey breast because it's such a huge chunk of meat. It really fills up the jars fast. If I wanted to, I could put this in the freezer in Ziploc bags, or I could actually vacuum seal it. I really like to do the pressure canning because it doesn't take up the freezer space and it's just so easy, really. There was a time when I was afraid of pressure canning though, so I would understand it if other people were too. So then what I like to do with the meat is I add just a teaspoon of salt to each one. Then what I like to do is pressure can the meat for 90 minutes at 10 pounds of pressure if at sea level. If you're interested, you can look at my video of how to do that in detail. After canning a full load of broth, I still had enough broth left for making soup. And after going through and pulling all the little chunks of meat off of the bones, I have the perfect start for my dinner tonight. So that one turkey provided meat for dinner last night, 7 quarts worth of broth, 5 quarts worth of meat, and enough leftover meat and broth for dinner tonight. Definitely worth it in my opinion.